Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. What is a companion video? Well, I'm glad that you asked. You see, every day on the John Campea Show from Monday through Friday, we save time to take live questions, but we often don't have time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in. But I want to make sure those questions get answered in a video because you sent them in. So that's what we do here on companion videos. So today is Tuesday, March the 26th, and these are the questions we didn't have time to get around to from this morning's The John Campea Show. So without wasting any time, let's dive right into it and start getting caught up. And the first one comes to us from Jerome Lim, who writes, I know it's a while from now, but do you have plans to have a panel at San Diego Comic-Con this year? Last year's panel was outstanding. Well, thank you so much for that, Jerome, and I'm glad you were able to make it out last year. I am still evaluating if I'm going to do one this year. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to be going to Comic-Con. I'd say I'm probably going to, but anyway, I will definitely, probably by mid-April. So maybe 3 weeks from now, I'll have a definitive answer if I'm going to do a panel at Comic-Con this year or not. I probably am, but I'm just not 100% sure. But I'll let you guys know soon. But thank you for that, Jerome. I appreciate that. All right. Akshu Davala writes, compared to comic-based TV shows of CW and Netflix, I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is pretty underrated. Yeah, the first season was pretty bad, but it becomes better after that. And man, is Ghost Rider amazing. I didn't mind the Ghost Rider stuff. I'll be honest with you. Now, look, everybody who watches me knows I hate Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think it's terrible. With the exception of Clark Gregg as Coulson, because he's awesome. And I'll watch anything. And he's the reason I hate watch the show. Even though I don't like the show and I think it's terrible, I watch it for Clark Gregg. And a little bit of Ming Na too. But I basically watch it for Clark Gregg because I think he's so phenomenal as Coulson. But that's been me. I don't just think the first season. I thought almost all of it was bad. But that's not to say that it hasn't had its moments. It has. It had some episodes that I've really, quite frankly, really liked. The Ghost Rider stuff wasn't bad, actually. So, yeah, I hate the show. But even though I hate the show, even I will point out there are some good things about it. But I know there's a lot of you guys who really love the show, and that's awesome. I wish it was for me. It's just not for me. And we all have shows like that, I guess. Okay. I'm Upset writes, what's worse, Next, Bangkok Dangerous, or Ghost Rider? Ooh, I'm going to go Bangkok Dangerous on that. Now, look, you can make an argument for Ghost Rider. You can definitely make an argument for Next. But Bangkok Dangerous was pretty damn bad, as a matter of fact. Yeah, that was pretty bad. Well, you know what? And actually, I think Next, when you're talking about Nicolas Cage stuff, it had some redeeming qualities. I thought Next had some redeeming qualities. Not as much so with Bangkok Dangerous. Anyway, Kevin Lewis writes, who knew Orville would be seriously good and Star Trek Discovery would be a joke? I think Star Trek Discovery is outstanding, to be honest. Got out after alternative universe crap. First of all, I think Orville is very hit and miss. Like the last Orville, there are some Orville episodes I watched, I'm like, man, this is really good. But for every one of those, there's another one that's like, oh God, this is painful to watch. The last one I just saw, the last Orville, where the dude takes up smoking, that was a terrible episode with the holographic girl and But then there's stuff with Kalon. The Kalon Prime stuff was actually really good. To me, Orville is very much a hit and miss show. Hit and miss. To me, I've loved everything about Star Trek Discovery. And I trashed on that show before it started. I railed on it for about a year. It's a stupid idea, blah, 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 blah. Honestly, I think it's incredibly imaginative. I think the show's spectacular. I really, really love it. I'm not going to say it's my favorite show on TV right now. It's not. But I'm really digging it. The stuff they're doing with Spock right now, the time travel stuff, it's been really good. And I hate time travel stuff. But they've been doing a really good job, and I quite enjoy the show myself. Anyway, but not everybody does, and there you go. Akash Telly writes, what are your thoughts on Raymond Reddington's trial on the Blacklist? Season 5's finale's twist was big, but it didn't go anywhere. Was excited about it. I thought this was a solid season. I did. I certainly thought this season was better than last season. The whole what's in the suitcase thing of last year, I didn't dig. I wanted to because I like this show. I like it very much. And while this season that just finished, and I didn't even realize, I guess that was the season finale. Anyway, isn't the best season they've had, but I thought it was quite good and definitely a step up over the last one. So I've enjoyed it, actually. Brian Esparza writes, whatever happened to Question of the Day? Yeah, I used to do Question of the Day. There are a couple of things. One, it was just time consuming to put together every day. So there was that. I mean, just putting up a poll was easy, but then putting together graphics for poll results and all that kind of stuff, and it became easy to forget. And like, there are so many things I do for a single episode of the John Campea Show that, and quite frankly, while we had some polls that would have like 12,000 people would vote on it, we had some polls where like 2,000 people would vote on it. And if it's not important enough to the viewers to engage on, then I didn't really see the point in continuing it. Now, I do some things and then let some things go, then bring them back again. I might try Question of the Day again sometime. Maybe I'll just make it a weekly thing. I don't know. But anyway, that's what happened to it. It just became not enough people engaged with it for the extra amount of work it costs to do it every day. So, but I may bring it back. If enough people ask for it, I guess. John Demoto writes, John, which do you think had the bigger impact on blockbuster filmmaking, Jaws or the first Star Wars film? Thanks. Oh, that would be the first Star Wars. The first Star Wars became, just look back historically. I mean, obviously, I remember as a child seeing the movie. That's my earliest childhood memory, but I was too young to appreciate what was happening culturally. But as you look back on that, it became really the first event film. That it became, it was the first film that really had huge cultural impact that transcended just the movies and became permanently imprinted on our culture as a whole. Jaws was huge. One of Steven Spielberg's best to this day, but yeah, that first Star Wars movie, nothing will ever replicate that. Nothing will ever come close to that. Ryan writes, did you see the Nurkic leg injury? For those of you who don't know what he's talking about, he's a basketball player. And it's so gruesome. Don't get me wrong, you don't see bones popping out, but it's one of those things where a leg is supposed to bend this way, and all of a sudden the guy comes down and his leg is completely bent where the leg is not supposed to bend. It's horrific to see. It's awful, and I hope it's not a career. It looks career-ending. I hope it's not career-ending for the guy, but that was gruesome. That was almost as bad as the Anderson Silva leg break. Remember that one? James L.H. writes, hey guys, a bit of a rant. Why do some YouTubers show no respect for moviegoers with spoiler reviews on Shazam, which doesn't open for over a week? I know how to avoid them, but they arm trolls. Yeah, look, James, that is something I've been railing on for a long time. I understand. Believe me, I understand the desire to want to be one of the first people to put up a spoiler review of something because you'll get clicks. I get it. I do. What I have implored my fellow YouTubers to do is to show a little bit of restraint. Because look, they just did an advanced screening of Shazam. Most people haven't had a chance to see it yet. By doing a spoiler review, what you have done, because what people who do these spoiler reviews early will say, well, people can choose whether to watch it or not. That's true. That's true. But when you do a spoiler review early, what you are now doing is arming trolls. Like trolls who didn't see the movie. Oh, but I want to find out everything that happens in it. They go watch it. Great. Now they have all the information and they can go and spoil it for other people. It happens every time. But there are some YouTubers that don't seem to care. They don't care about the fan community. They don't care what happens, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, look, I'm sounding too harsh. I get it. I do get the appeal of doing that. As for myself, the earliest I'll do, and I've done spoiler reviews like the day a movie opens, but I come to realize, you know what? A lot of people haven't had a chance to see the movie yet. I could be potentially spoiling them inadvertently. So then I started pushing off to Saturday. Now I've pushed it to Sunday. So sometimes now I'll do spoiler reviews in either the Sunday. So that way you've had Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday, and maybe the first part of Sunday to see a movie. At that point, everybody's seen it, and the trolls already have any information they need. And so I kind of put off any spoiler review discussions until at least the Sunday that it opens. And I got no problem with somebody who puts it up on the Saturday. Hell, I don't even have a problem with people who put up on a Friday. But, you know, the people who see it early, then put up spoiler stuff early, they're not thinking about the damage they're doing. They're either not thinking about what the damage they're doing to the fan community, or they don't care what the damage they're doing to the fan community. I like to give them the benefit of the doubt and think they're just not thinking about it. And which is probably the case for a lot of people. Oh, pardon me. And, but yeah, I really wish they would stop doing that. Put up spoiler reviews. I get you'll get a few extra clicks if you put it up early, but just wait an extra day or two. Just wait a couple of days. Anyway, that's just my thought on that. But not everybody has to agree with me on that, and that's totally fine. All right, Julius Goodwin writes, with success of Shazam, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman, is DC now a true competitor to the MCU that could overtake it someday, or are they still second tier? Oh, they're definitely still second tier. There's no doubt about that. I mean, that's great. They've had a couple of films in a row. That's great. The MCU has had 21 really successful movies. And their worst movies are still pretty good. I mean, there are a lot of people who like Iron Man 2. I don't know. There are some people who really love Thor: The Dark World. I think Thor: The Dark World's okay. There's Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but it's not great. But yeah, to be a true competitor to MCU, it's going to need to string together more than 3 or 4. Like once it strings together 5, 6, 7, 8, then we're talking. But look, one of the things you can't dispute though, it's on the right path now. They've got a little bit of a winning streak going. They're on the right path. They've discovered and they've really implemented a new direction for their films. I think they're heading in the right direction, man. I think we are heading into an age where we have legitimately 2 big comic book movie producing studios putting out quality stuff that audiences can look forward to. And them putting out good movies is only going to help Marvel. And Marvel putting out good movies is only going to help DC. It's all good for the comic book movie genre, and they're definitely heading in the right direction. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, seen those Disney princess memes, and you like, nope, I haven't seen them. I've heard a couple people mention them, but I still haven't seen them myself. 50 Shades of Crypto writes, would you consider bringing Johns, I'm guessing you mean Jeremy, on as a guest via Skype? You brought the best out in Jeremy Johns, and I miss seeing Jeremy Johns in a longer format. Maybe a monthly recap show. Not really in the plans. You know, Jeremy is probably, quite frankly, the best in the world at what he does, like the short form movie review stuff. I just don't know that there's anybody in the business who does it flat out as well as he does. And he uses that infuriating jump cut technique, but he's the only one, I think, on YouTube who really does it well. Like, I don't like that technique at all, but he uses it very effectively and very well, and it suits his style perfectly. And when it comes to that type of movie review stuff, that short form thing, I simply don't know that there's anybody better in the world at it. But that's his thing, and that's his area. And, you know, he gave the longer form medium stuff a shot. He gave it a real shot. He put in his best effort. But I think he just discovered it really wasn't for him. So, no, it's not really something I've ever thought about. Not something I've ever thought about. But that's okay, because he's like the best in the world in the stuff that he does do. Cody Carroll writes, how do families like Danny Masterson all end up being popular actors? Every one of the brothers has been on a popular show, including the sisters. I'm not even sure I know who Danny Masterson is. Is that the guy who was in that 70s show? I think that's the guy who was in that 70s show. If he is, I had no idea that he had brothers or sisters in acting. I had no idea. So I don't know how famous they can be. But then you look at families like the, why am I freezing on their names? The Skarsgård family, right? Multiple actors, Skars. I don't know. Maybe they're born into it. Maybe it's the way a certain family does things. I don't know. It's a good question. But there are families. I'm not quite sure about the Danny Masterson family because I'm not even sure if I'm talking about the right guy or not. But it happens. Yeah, it does happen. Mr. Hero 17 writes, why is the Justice League Snyder Cut still a relevant topic? Just to be clear, it's not a relevant topic. It's not. The movie wasn't good. Let's get over it and move on. Warner Brothers has stated multiple times the Snyder Cut will not be released, and there's not even a real thing. There's not even a real thing called the Snyder Cut. So let's just be clear. As a matter of fact, Zack Snyder just talked about how his real vision of the movie never even got filmed. So, I mean, there's that. It shouldn't be. I mean, up to a few months ago, I would still, when Zack Snyder would say something about it, we would talk about it. But then I just realized this movie's now a couple years old. Nobody cares anymore. It's not a relevant topic anymore, Mr. Hero. So Yeah, it's just not. Time to move on. As it's time for Zack Snyder to move on, and he's doing so by doing a new zombie movie, which I think everybody should be excited about. Razor's Edge Frisbee writes, settle this debate I had, John. I say things like plot holes are still subjective criticisms, but someone I know insists that it's objective. It depends on what your definition of a plot hole is, because different people operate on different assumptions. A plot hole, to me, is an objective point of fact in a movie that contradicts another objective point of fact in a movie. Some people think plot holes are just a quality issue. Oh, like if they don't like a movie, they say, that thing's full of plot holes. Why? Because that wasn't good. That's not what a plot hole is. So just for an example, an objective point of fact in a movie. Cheryl's husband is Jack. Then at another time in the movie, an objective point of fact, it's portrayed that Cheryl's husband is Bobby. Well, wait. Or let's say, I don't know, Terrence. Terrence is Cheryl's husband's name. And I'm just illustration-wise, that technically speaking would be a plot hole. It's like, wait a minute, you propose an objective point of fact in the movie was X was this, but in another point of movie, X equals that. Here's another example. You can say, earlier in the film, it's revealed that Justin is in the Caribbean. Okay, he's somewhere in the Caribbean. Later in the movie, it's revealed that the hero shipped an important artifact to Justin back home in the U.S., and he got it for him. Well, wait a minute. Objective point of fact in the movie, part A, you said Justin was in the Caribbean and has been and will be for a while. But then you propose an objective point of fact at another point in the movie where you say the hero shipped an important artifact to them back home and who then picked it up for him. Well, wait a minute. Those two objective points of fact are incompatible with each other. They stand in contradiction to each other. That's just a general thing that it creates a flaw in the logic, hence a plot hole. Now, those aren't great examples of plot holes. I'm just giving you an example of that plot hole is not a quality issue. A plot hole is not that. If it was a quality issue, that is subjective. But there are functional plot holes in some movies where two objective points of fact in a movie stand in contradiction to each other, hence you get a plot hole. And so, again, if we're talking about quality stuff, that's all subjective. But talking about plot holes, under the definition of a plot hole that I'm proposing, a plot hole can actually be an objective thing, because it's something you can objectively point to and say, these two statements of fact stand in contradiction to each other, thus it creates a plot hole. So it can be objective. You can look at it, define it, and identify it, as opposed to a quality issue, which you cannot do that. So I would actually probably side that a true plot hole, if you're operating on the same definition, can be objectively identified and pointed out. If they are indeed two objective points of fact in a film that stand in, diametrically opposed to each other, that's a problem. Okay, that's just my thought. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, Zack Snyder's comments about people needing to wake the F up because they didn't like how Batman vs. Superman handled Batman were awful. It's not childish to think Batman shouldn't kill. His defense needs work. I didn't read the full extent of Zack Snyder's thing, but you know my position on this. I've always been perfectly fine that Batman kills. Every hero, every superhero kills. They all kill. They all kill. I've lost count of how many people Iron Man has killed. I lost count of how many people and living beings Star-Lord has killed. I've lost count of how many people in Age of Ultron that the Avengers killed. I've lost count of, they kill. Green Arrow in Arrow kills a lot of people. He puts a lot of arrows through a lot of people's chests. He kills a lot of people. Superheroes kill people. They don't set out to murder them. That's different. But in the midst of combat, sometimes the other guy gets taken out. Some people would ask me, well, if it's okay that Batman kills, how come he didn't go after and kill the Joker? Well, that's different. That's premeditatedly going after. But if Batman gets into a life and death fight against 12 armored thugs, guess what? Him doing what he needs to do to subdue those guys, that's probably going to kill some of them. But that's armed combat. That's a different thing than premeditated murder. I've always been good with it. Always been good with it. Because it is a fairy tale. One of the things that frustrates me in the Batman comics is they make it seem in the Batman comics like Batman's got this unbreakable rule I won't kill. But he constantly does things to people that could easily kill them. You know? He constantly does things that would easily kill a lot of people. So, when they show him, swinging and busting through a wall and then landing knees first onto a guy's chest that then goes down 2 stories and he lands on top of the guy with his knees, guess what? That would kill that guy. In the comics, they say, oh, he just broke his ribs and he's going to be in traction for a few months and blah, blah. That would have killed the guy. Every time you punch somebody in the face, you could kill them. Especially if you're somebody as strong and as tactical as Batman. That could kill them. Every time you throw somebody through a wall, which Batman does all the time, that could kill them. And yet, so they do all these things that would easily kill people, and yet they say, oh, but it doesn't kill them. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway. So I've always been perfectly fine that the movies are different from the comic books, and in the movies, you got to get rid of that nonsense fairy taleism. And yes, Batman tries not to kill. He doesn't want to kill people. But guess what? In the midst of combat, sometimes you're going to kill people. Do I appreciate... So I've always been a supporter of the way Zack Snyder handled that with Batman. And to this day I do. I think it's perfectly rational and reasonable that Batman in combat would kill bad guys. He doesn't go out of his way to do it, but it happens. However, I get what you're saying, Angry Irish, because I don't think Zack Snyder saying to fans who don't like the idea of Batman killing, saying, wake the F up, that's probably not the right response. Just sit down and rationally explain, look, to me, there's a difference between the comic books and the movies. In the comic books, them saying Batman doesn't kill is inconsistent with the type of unbridled violence that Batman unleashes on the criminals. It's just not consistent. And therefore, when putting my movies together, it felt more real that in a world like that, if Batman's going to throw people through walls, he needs to understand that may kill them. And if he needs to do that to subdue the criminal, then that's what he needs to do. If it's that criminal's life or his life, that's what he needs to do. He should have just explained it like that. Coming out to people who've got an issue with it saying, wake the F up, probably not the best thing to say. Anyway, Anthony R. writes, I hope episode 9 leads to the restoration of the Jedi Order. I'd rather have new novels, games, and movies centered around new Jedi instead of Old Republic. Here's the thing though, Anthony, I don't think it's an either or proposition. It's Star Wars when you got all these different filmmakers making Star Wars, and Star Wars is such a vast universe both in space and time. It doesn't have to be an either or. It can be a both and. Make Old Republic stuff. Go ahead. And make new era stuff. Like, I'm with you. I want to see stories moving forward after episode 9. I want to see what happens next. A restored Jedi Order, all that. Love it. Love it. But that doesn't mean you can't also do Old Republic stuff. And that's the great thing about Star Wars right now, Anthony, is that can be a both and, not an either or. And maybe we'll get the best of both worlds. Or neither. Anthony R. follows up with, I think Endgame is going to have a special type of end credits, as this will be the grand ending of phases 1 through 3. I don't know that I agree, Anthony. Any special ending you don't do in a post-credit. You do that in the movie. And then the post-credits are for fun or they're usually for one of the two Fs, for fun or for foreshadowing. And I don't know that there's anything especially special that you can do in these post-credit scenes for that. But maybe they will. Look, I'm sure we're going to have... I feel pretty confident we're going to get post-credit scenes, and I feel pretty confident they're going to be great. But I don't know that they'll be any different from the two Fs, the fun or foreshadowing, that we've gotten in the other ones. But we're only 1 month away from finding out, Anthony. Let's see if you're right. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, I hope Hulu becomes available outside of North America. It bugs me that any content Disney puts there is unavailable here. Plus, I want to see Runaways. Well, here's the interesting thing, Angry Irish. You can see Runaways in a lot of countries that don't have Hulu. They just then put them and license out that content to other networks. So, for instance, in Canada, I remember when I was in Canada, they don't have Hulu in Canada. And so when I was visiting my family over Christmas, I realized, oh, look at that. Hulu is on this other network in Canada. Since Hulu isn't there, they wanted their content to be able to see, so they licensed it out to another thing. Titans, you can get on Netflix in a lot of countries that don't have the DC streaming service. In a lot of countries, you can watch Star Trek Discovery that don't have CBS All Access because they license them out. So a lot of the Hulu stuff you can find in other countries and other networks. You just might have to do a little bit of homework on that and a little bit of research. Okay. Hardy Buck 4 writes, McGregor retired today. Your thoughts, Mr. Campea? Good riddance to a piece of trash. Good riddance to that piece of trash. I was a big Conor McGregor fan. Huge Conor McGregor fan. I used to buy all the pay-per-views, cheer him on, blah, blah, blah. And then he pulled that BS where because he's a little baby, he got a bunch, like 20 thugs, and attacked a bus of people, throwing a metal, what's that thing that you can load things on? Cart, I guess. What's the proper word? Why am I freezing on the word for that? Anyway, he got a big heavy metal cart, threw it through a window that sprayed glass and hospitalized a dude on the bus that missed his upcoming UFC fight because of that. So he missed out on a bunch, got hospitalized, could have killed somebody. And he was never fined a single dollar by the UFC. The UFC never suspended him for a single day, and he did no jail time. And it gave my heart great joy to watch Khabib beat the living hell out of that guy till he gave up and quit. I loved that. So goodbye to bad trash. Goodbye to bad trash. He's bad for the UFC. He's bad for the sport. I want him gone. Now, it's also just come out that he's now facing sexual assault charges in Ireland. So that one might have had something to do with the other. But hey, all I know, if I'm particularly sour on it, it's because I used to be such a big fan of his, and he's just a piece of trash. I'm glad that he's gone. I don't think it'll stick. I think he'll be back, but for now, I'm glad that he's gone. Rinal Alira writes, love your Keanu Reeves impression, John. Guns. Lots of guns. That's the best imitation I can do. I don't know if that's a particularly good one, but thank you for that. Dropkick Aggie writes, going to Cali, what are good non-chain restaurants? Oh, dude, I don't know. I have no idea. Cali is bigger than most countries in the world, so I have no idea where you're going. I know I have a couple of restaurants I love that are non-chain. I got an Italian place here in Burbank called Market City Cafe. I love going to that place. There's a place called Gus's Barbecue in Pasadena that I quite like. But things that I don't know are not. And again, I don't know where you're going in Cali, but believe me, lots of great places in California to eat. Believe that. I think you're not going to have a hard time finding a good place to eat, Dropkick. Have fun, man. All right. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, just to be clear, I'm not 100% against Batman killing, but this feels like deflection. I, for one, don't think he earned Batman's nihilism and killing. I think he did, and I agree with you. I don't think he handled how he addressed that question properly. And I'm all for Batman killing. Kill away, Batman, kill away. I'm all for it, but I agree. He didn't handle the question right, and I'm 100% in agreement with you on that, Angry Irish. All right. Christopher Cladwell Jacques writes, Movie Pass's endless resiliency is sadly admirable, like the Black Knight in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's just a scratch. I cut your leg off. No, you didn't. All limbs are cut off. It's only a scratch. I don't know what they're still doing around. I really don't. I have no idea why they're even still trying. I mean, they tried and they failed. And now, not just AMC, now Alamo Drafthouse, Cinemark has a movie club. It's only a matter of time before Regal announces theirs. I mean, even in their space, Cinemia is a much better option than Movie Pass is. But both of them are going to be in big trouble because the theaters are just introducing their own, which is a good move. So I honestly don't know what they're thinking at this point. They were dead a long time ago and they just didn't know it. But hey, they've lasted longer than I thought they would. And you're right, Christopher. You got to kind of admire the resiliency a little bit. All right, Al X6 writes, with the recent success of Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, what are the chances of Disney giving us a live Dragon Ball Z movie now that they own the rights? Not sure, because they tried a live Dragon Ball Z movie before and nobody went to go see it. And, a friend of mine who's like, I'm not massively into anime, and I've never liked Dragon Ball Z, just to be honest, just to be upfront with you. I've never been a fan of Dragon Ball Z myself. I had a buddy who was like psychotically into them. He tried to get me into it. I just couldn't. That doesn't mean other people shouldn't love it. I'm just saying it didn't work for me. But this buddy of mine who's like crazy into Dragon Ball, he brought up a really interesting point. He said, some people make excuses for why Dragon Ball, the live action film, didn't work. Some people make excuses saying it means no one's all that interested in it. Yes, they are. But then other people may excuse it. People just didn't go see it because it wasn't a good movie. Well, they wouldn't have known that till they went to go see it. And nobody went to go see it. He proposed something that I thought was very, very interesting. And what he suggested to me was, real Dragon Ball fans are not looking for a live action movie. I said, huh? Now, I'm not a real Dragon Ball fan. I have no opinion on this. But he said, because we love Dragon Ball because of what it is, and it's anime. That's where Dragon Ball should live. That's what Dragon Ball should be. And if you suddenly try to throw a bastardized version of Dragon Ball that cannot possibly be anything really visually like what we do in anime, then it's not really Dragon Ball Z. And from his point of view, it's like, real Dragon Ball fans don't want them to try doing live action because you can't replicate it. What Dragon Ball is in anime is exactly what it should be. And I thought that was interesting. Again, since I'm not in the Dragon Ball fan community, I can't speak to the validity or lack thereof of what he was suggesting, but I thought it was an interesting point of view. For those of you who are Dragon Ball fans, jump down, let me know. But I don't see Disney feeling any need to doing anything because for whatever reason, I don't think it would do all that great. And if people did go see Super Broly, it's because it's anime, the way that at least my friend thinks it should be. But again, I can't really speak to that because I'm not in that community. Let's see. Apex Caliber writes, if Endgame is 3 hours and is successful, will a trend start? No, because there's too many other variables. You can't just go, oh, Endgame is a 3-hour movie. Let's do 3-hour movies. No. Endgame is a comic book movie that is a culmination of 22 films that came before it, all building up in one cohesive storyline. If you have other movie franchises that make 21 films that all build to a cohesive storyline, then you could say, well, a 3-hour finale could be a trend starter for that. But you can't pretend like 3 hours is the answer. No, you'd also have to replicate the other elements in the controlled environment. 20 plus films over 10 years, all building towards one story, ending with a 3-hour film. If you want to replicate all those other criteria, then maybe you start a trend. But no, a successful 3-hour movie, while ignoring all the other circumstances surrounding it, will not create a trend. It won't create a trend. Jeff Mullins writes, over under 35%, Cap goes back to skinny Cap at some point in Endgame. I'm going to take the under on that. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but 35 is a real high number. I'm going to take the under on that. Ben Rayner writes, I don't like 10 episodes either, but if The Gifted gets 10 episodes season 3, I will be thrilled, praying, hashtag renew The Gifted. Ben, I'm a big fan of The Gifted, and I didn't think it looked all that good. I wasn't all that interested when they were bringing it out. I didn't think the initial marketing plays for it were all that compelling. And then I watched it and I really, really enjoy that show a lot. And the showrunner said that it doesn't look like it's getting a season 3. Fingers crossed, man. Even if it's just a 10 episode season, I'll totally take it. I want Gifted season 3. Maesh Anna writes, hey, John, Rob, Miss Ashley, huge fan from India. Well, thank you so much. You know what, Mahesh, I am constantly amazed by how many people in India watch the show. And it was actually kind of crazy because when we launched our podcast, Best Movie, Worst Movie, it shot to number 5 in India. I'm like, really? And I'm just always surprised and overwhelmed and honored and humbled by how many of you guys watch from India. So thank you so much. I got to get out and visit sometime. And visit everybody who watches the John Campea Show there. So thank you for sharing that, Mahesh. I appreciate that. All right. Kidman104 writes, John, you're lucky. Weed is legal in Canada and Cali. Yep. You just walk into a place now and just order weed, I guess. My wife got me to try these CBD electric sticks, I guess. I mean, look, I don't smoke. I don't drink. It's just not really my thing. But, yep, apparently it's completely legal here now. Wayne N. writes, Over under 20%, 15-hour Endgame spoiler discussion video. It's possible. Look, when it's all said and done, the Captain Marvel, because I've still got one more Captain Marvel spoiler makeup video to do, because we did the main one that was like 4 hours. Then Rob did one that was over an hour. And I've got another one that's going to go over an hour. When it's all said and done, just the Captain Marvel one's going to be about 6 hours. I'll take the over 21%. I'll take over 20%. I don't think it's over 50%, but I'll take over 20% that our Endgame spoiler discussion, I mean, we won't do more than 6 or 7 hours in one sitting. But by the time we get through the one sitting and then do all the companion stuff to it to get caught up on all the comments, it might end up being 15 hours. I don't know. It's going to be big, and I'm excited. I just want to see the damn movie, Wayne. I just want to see the damn movie. All right. Elvis Burns writes, "Hey, guys, do you believe there is any chance of Jordan Peele to still produce a movie or live series of Disney's Gargoyles? Love that show. Stay filthy." I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think that's going to be high on anybody's priority right now, and he seems to be doing and focused on other things at the moment. So never say never. Never say never. And if you're going to say any chance, well, of course there's any chance. Everything has any chance, but in general, I don't think so. But let's wait and see, maybe. All right, Apex Cowboy writes, do you think Rocket will be mad Nebula survived? Irony? I don't get why. I'm trying to think. I can't think off the top of my head even what you're referring to, Apex. All right, Elijah White writes, any thoughts on how Blade will enter in the MCU? I'm not even sure he will enter in the MCU mix. I'm not sure that they're going... I know there have been reports of them doing it, but I don't know that I buy it. I don't know that Kevin Feige is interested in Blade. I'm not saying whether he should or shouldn't. I'm saying I don't know that he's even interested in Blade. And if he is, it probably wouldn't be in the MCU. Because it sounds like Bob Iger is moving anything that could be R-rated under a different banner and moving it out from Marvel. They spent too many years cultivating a trust with their audience, knowing when we put out an MCU film, you're safe to come and you're safe to bring your families and everything's good. He's not going to risk that. So anything R-rated is probably going to go under a different banner. Oh, he may change his mind, but that's what it looks like he's saying right now. And Blade is not a PG thing, so I don't know that you're going to see Blade in the MCU. I mean, it's possible, certainly possible. I don't think so, but it is possible. Luke Blackwell writes, hey, John, Conor McGregor retired. Did you hear? Yep, certainly did. Good riddance. Sifi writes, greetings from Hamilton, John, my hometown. This is my favorite show to listen to every day. Thanks for all your hard work. Well, thank you so much, Sifi. I love Hamilton. Coming back to visit it in... I think May. I'm going to come back for a couple of days and visit Hamilton in May, and then, of course, I'll be back again around Christmas time. But I love going home. It's my favorite city in the world. Honestly, if it wasn't for my wife's job, I would have moved back to Hamilton by now. Honestly. The only thing that's keeping me in LA right now, because the great thing about what I do, my job, is all I need is a good internet connection. That's all I need is a good internet connection. I don't need to be in Los Angeles. And especially once I gave up and I don't care about press junkets or any crap like that. The only reason I'm here is because my wife's career is here. And I stay for her. But yeah, if she ever decides to leave Hasbro, whatever, we're moving back to Hamilton. I miss that. It's my home, man. It's my home. The Hammer, forever. Anyway, Don Megalo writes, what do you think about the Russo brothers saying they used footage that's not in the movie for Endgame? Well, let's be clear. They didn't directly say that. There were things implied and things like that, and that in and of itself could be a misdirect. Right? We talked about that. That them suggesting there are misdirects in the trailers, that suggestion might be the misdirect in and of itself. Now they've got us questioning everything we see in the trailer. Wouldn't it be a kick if everything that's in the trailer is in the movie? Right? Because their suggestion of misdirection in and of itself is the misdirection. I don't know. It's possible. I think it's possible. I wouldn't put it by them at all. We're going to find out soon enough. We are 1 month away from Avengers Endgame. All right. Edward Dillon writes, if Endgame is over 3 hours, will that affect its box office numbers? Yes. I.e., longer runtime means theaters can't play the movie as frequently? Yes. As a matter of fact, Box Office Pro, they put out their initial numbers. Remember it said that some people were tracking that Avengers Endgame could come in at like $280 million opening weekend? That came from Box Office Pro. Now, they also put a big asterisk in there from their senior analyst that said, that number will change if the movie is 3 hours or longer because it limits the amount of times that a theater can play it in a 24-hour cycle. It'll reduce the number of screenings and showings, and that equals money lost and blah, 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 blah. So if it's over 3 hours, will it affect the box office? Yes. The question, though, is how big of an effect will it have? That we don't know. It might be a major effect. It might be a minor effect, but it will have an effect. It will have an effect. How much? We're going to have to wait and find out. I'm sure we're going to find out what the actual runtime is pretty soon. All right. Apex Caliber writes, John, do you watch Man in the High Castle? I do not. I keep hearing it's really good, but I don't have a lot of time to watch a lot of TV, and that's just one of the shows I never got around to having a chance to watch, but I hear it's really quite good. Apex follows up. Netflix is now $16, should lower. I don't know about that. Hulu, Amazon Prime, WWE Network, DC, Disney Plus are too much already. Apple isn't offering wow. It doesn't stand out. I agree with you, Apex. It's not standing out. They didn't make a big splash with their big Apple Plus announcement, which, by the way, Apple TV Plus, why is Disney not suing them? So Disney announces their streaming service is called Disney Plus, and Apple comes out and says, well, we're Apple TV Plus. You couldn't come up with something more creative than that, Apple? Disney already did that. Anyway. Was not impressed with Apple's launch announcement of Apple TV Plus. I don't think Netflix is too expensive. Think about how much you watch Netflix. Think about that. $16 a month for everything you get on Netflix? I don't know, man. That's a pretty good deal. I don't think that's overpriced. You think about how many hours a month you sit down and watch Netflix. Think about that. How much are you willing to pay per hour for that entertainment? Think about that. $16? I don't think that's unreasonable. I don't think that's unreasonable at all. For all that content with no ads, I still think Netflix is one of the best bargains in entertainment. It really is. I don't think Netflix is perfect by any stretch, but I think dollar to viewing hours wise, I don't know, man. It's hard to imagine you getting a much better deal than that. But you're right. Apple Plus is coming into an already overcrowded space. There's so much streaming stuff. Now we got Comcast is going to launch theirs. Warner Brothers said they're going to launch another streaming service on top of the DC streaming service. It's getting to be a bit much. Apex follows up with, could Thanos give Captain Marvel a feeling of vulnerability? Sure. But I think even just in the movie Captain Marvel, without getting into spoilers, but there's a fight between her and what's the name of her troop again? The Star Rangers or the Star Brigade, whatever. Just between her and the other Kree, she was vulnerable. I mean, she was clearly the best, but she was clearly vulnerable. I think she'd be vulnerable against a lot of people. And yeah, I think she'd be vulnerable against Thanos. That doesn't mean I don't think she 100% couldn't take Thanos, but I think she'd be vulnerable against Thanos. Yeah, I think she'd be vulnerable against Thor. I think she'd be vulnerable against Hulk. So I think there's a lot of people she'd be vulnerable to. Apex writes, glad Thanos wasn't in the trailers. Patience is key. Well, then again, he may hardly be in the movie. Remember, I still propose that there's a chance that Thanos isn't in this movie much. And that could be why we don't see him in the trailers. We'll find out. Eddie Burton writes, does Zack Snyder's recent layout of what he had planned for Justice League change your feelings on DC getting rid of him? To me, Snyder's vision is too convoluted. I agree. I mean, I read this stuff that he talked about what he was planning on doing, and I agree. My first thought was this sounds really convoluted. Now, that doesn't mean that it wouldn't have come together on screen in a very coherent way. It could have, but I agree with you, Eddie. It stood out to me as going, whoa, really glad they didn't do that, but that was just my initial thought. Maybe it would have played better on screen. Anthony Franco writes, I'd love at least one more Thor movie with Hemsworth in which he could potentially pass on his title/duty of being an Avenger to Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill's Beta Ray Bill. Don't get me wrong, I love Beta Ray Bill and everything, but I just want to see more Thor, but not for handing off the... Here's the thing. We've had Thor in the movies for 9 years, right? We've had Thor in the comics for 50. Why are we so quick and want to shuffle him off? We've had him in the comics for like 50 years. Why? Oh, well, we've had him in 7 movies. So what? Keep him around for another 12. I just really hope, and I think there's a chance they may re-up on a bigger and double down on Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Ever since, Thor Ragnarok, he was a big crowd favorite in Infinity War. I just don't think you should let this guy go under any circumstances. But hey, we'll have to wait and see. Apex writes, Bob Iger cut off Rob's internet. Stay in your lane. Yeah, of course, a little bit earlier today on the John Campea Show, Rob's internet twice went off, and then he came back. But maybe it was Bob Iger trying to silence him. Captain Mexico 21 writes, A-List wasn't available for Infinity War. Do you think it will have a significant impact on the box office? I know I'm booking 3 showings in one day. Here's the thing, Captain Mexico. I think there are people booking 3 showings in one day, regardless if they had A-List or not. I think there are people, and by the way, good luck if you think you're getting 3 screenings in one day. Like, good luck with that, because those tickets are going to go fast. And if you can't get in 3 in one day, great. But I think there were people going 3 in a weekend anyway. Yeah, I do think things like A-List are going to help a lot, because people are going anyway. And every time you use your A-List, it counts as a $9 ticket towards the box office. So if I go see Endgame twice on a weekend with my A-List, then technically speaking, that means for accounting purposes and for box office tracking, I've bought $18 worth of tickets. So if I go 3 times, I will have bought no, it's $9. So I would have bought $27 worth of tickets. So yes, it could make an impact. It could have a very good positive impact, as a matter of fact. Apex Caliber writes, John, people will drag their casual friends to Endgame if your casual friends like the idea of a 3-hour movie. So yes and no. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Apex follows up again with, Comic-Con and E3 are dying. Comic-Con is not dying. Do you know how many hundreds of thousands of people go to Comic-Con? Anyway, Comic-Con and E3 are dying. I've never been to E3. I can't comment on E3. Since companies want their own presentation gatherings, D23, Nintendo, do you think one day will come when Comic-Con and E3 do die? Well, I mean, everything will eventually end, right? Facebook will become obsolete at some point. Twitter will disappear at some point. Comic-Con will go away at some point. But Comic-Con is as big as ever right now. And understand this, Comic-Con was around for decades and growing and growing and growing long before studios brought movies to Comic-Con. Studios bringing movies to Comic-Con is still a relatively new thing. It really only started a handful of years ago. And so Disney bringing a big slate of movies to Comic-Con, that's a relatively new thing. Comic-Con was growing and thriving and doing all that stuff before that all ever happened. So Marvel suddenly disappearing, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's a catch, but understand this too. Hall H at Comic-Con only holds 6,000 people. Hall H, the big hall where all the big panels are, it only holds about 6,000 people. That's it. That only represents about 5% or less of the people who go to Comic-Con. So understanding Marvel not being at Comic-Con was only going to affect 5% of the people that actually go to Comic-Con, or less actually. It's really closer more to like 3% of the people who go to Comic-Con. Does them not going spell the decline of Comic-Con? No. Comic-Con was Comic-Con before Marvel ever went to it. Comic-Con will continue to be Comic-Con long after Marvel goes. It's great if Marvel can be there, but it's not like every one of the 200 plus thousand people who go get to go and watch the Marvel panel. Only 6,000 do. So it's honestly not big. Now, as far as E3 goes, I can't speak to that because I never really go to E3, so I can't say. Apex follows up again. CC Feige, Comic-Con Feige announces Phase 4 films. D23 Black Widow footage. They aren't even making a Black Widow movie. I mean, it looks like they're going to, but they haven't. They they haven't started. So no. It is possible. We said this on the show earlier today. Apex said it is possible he announces a couple of things at Comic-Con and a couple of things at D23. My bet right now is they're going to save everything for D23. D23 is Disney's priority. So I think that's the way they're going to go. But it could be that they split it up a little bit. But Black Widow footage is not one of them because they haven't shot a single frame of Black Widow because they haven't even officially greenlit Black Widow yet. Apex again writes, could/should Tom Holland have a Spidey show in Disney Plus? No. In 2 years, they could team him up with Daredevil and fight the street-level thugs or Kingpin. Nope. Spider-Man is definitely a theatrical level hero. And they're going to have Spider-Man on the theatrical level. They're not going to waste Spider-Man on Disney Plus. They're going to put him in the theaters where he'll make the real money and all that kind of stuff. So no. And I don't think that's something that Sony would even let them do. I don't think Sony would let them just delegate him to, because remember, it's still Sony's call. It's still Sony. Sony is still in control here. Let's not forget that. So it's not even something I think they would do. So no, they could not do it, and they should not do it. It'd be a terrible, terrible mistake. Captain Mexico 21 writes, all I want to see in Endgame is Loki facing Thanos and him saying, Hulk smash. Hulk appears behind Thanos and proceeds to smash. I would lose my shit. Dude, I'm telling you, I don't know that we're going to see Hulk versus Thanos round 2. I don't know that we're going to see that in Endgame. But I am with you, Captain Mexico. Oh my God, I would love to see that. And let's also not forget that Loki is dead. So Loki's gone, apparently. And this new Marvel Disney Plus Loki show is going to be prequel, it sounds like. So I don't think we're going to get that scenario you're painting completely. But I will be right alongside of you, Captain Mexico, and losing my shit with you if we do get to see Hulk go like World Smasher, World Breaker Hulk. Like just him and Thanos. The final battle being Hulk and Thanos. Ah! With a truly potentialed Hulk. Getting his true rage potential. Fighting Thanos, oh my God, I'm right with you, man. I would completely lose my shit. Absolutely, I would. Apex Cowboy writes, imagine Feige going to the DCEU. Hey, listen, I've said for a long time, look, Kevin Feige is an icon now. He's an icon for what he has done in the MCU. You want to become a legend? Say, guys, I've done everything I can do in the MCU. I've brought it along 10 years, developed all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing left for me to accomplish. I've done it all. I've taken it to the highest of the heights. The biggest box office movies in the world. I've done it all. I need a new challenge. Oh my God. Could you know, look, I'm loving what Walter Hamada's doing. Don't get me wrong. But if Warner Brothers would put out a press release saying, Kevin Feige, we now welcome in Kevin Feige as the president of DC Entertainment for Warner Brothers. And then he's able to do at DC what he did at Marvel. He wouldn't just be an icon in the business. He'd be a god. He would be a god. I think it's something he should consider. Not that I want him to leave the MCU, but hey, at some point, give yourself a new challenge. And taking over DC would be a great challenge. I don't know. I'm just saying. Good old Uncle Sidious writes, hey, John, love the show. Always have, always will. Thank you so much, Uncle Sidious. I wanted your take on John Carpenter's The Thing. Who do you think The Thing was at the end? Okay. I'm trying to remember. I think it's McCready. And I want to say the other guy's name is George. I think it was George. Anyway, I know it's becoming more and more popular to think that it was McCready. And I don't think it was. I think it was the other guy. Because Carpenter has confirmed that one of the two last guys was a Thing. I think it makes more sense that it was George. There's a lot of theory videos out there on that, but it's just, we're told from McCready, and I'm probably even saying his name wrong. But anyway, and it's Kurt Russell. Let's just say Kurt Russell. The movie follows Kurt Russell, and I think that in and of itself suggests the movie's from his point of view. He's not the alien. But who knows? Might be. And it was George. Was that the other guy's name at the end? I can't remember. But if I had to guess, I'm guessing it was George. But I love The Thing. The Thing is one of the great examples that remakes can be great. A lot of people forget that The Thing is a remake. And one of the great examples of how you do a remake right. Fanable writes, theater submitting times tonight/tomorrow for Endgame. I don't know if that's true. If that's true, makes sense. They should be getting a run. The movie's coming out in a month. They've got to get a runtime so they can set up their theatrical schedule. Because they can't set the schedule until they know the runtime, and they got to get their schedule. And they need to be able to have their schedule in order to start selling tickets. So it makes sense that they should be getting their runtimes pretty soon. All right, Haskell 420 writes, Fandango tweeted out character face pics for Endgame. Avengers Endgame is a month away with the hashtag Avengers the Fallen. Oh my God, loving it. I haven't seen that, but what I did see is the one that Marvel started putting out on Instagram about Avenge the Fallen, and Valkyrie was in it. We hadn't seen Valkyrie in any of the official marketing. Valkyrie is in that poster. And it's exciting. Guys, if you want to see what Haskell and I are talking about, check out the Fandango tweet, but also check out the Marvel Studios Instagram. The Avenge the Fallen posters are awesome. We're probably going to talk about it on the John Campea Show tomorrow because I'm loving it. I think they look amazing, Haskell. All right, good old Uncle Sidious writes, what would your dream movie crossover be? I really don't have any. Frankly, movie crossovers are better for YouTube videos and short films and spoofs. But I've always said, if you had to cross over two movie franchises, the one that makes the most logical sense is Matrix and Terminator. Think about it. They would flow together perfectly. You can make an argument those two things exist in the same universe. So if I had to say one, Matrix and Terminator universes, that would be my crossover. Apex Caliber writes, will Infinity Saga be remembered like Star Wars, the original trilogy? It's impossible to say. Look, you couldn't have predicted that the original Star Wars trilogy would be remembered 40 years later. Still the most revered film franchise of all time, 4 decades later. You couldn't have said that at the time. You just couldn't have known. Time will tell. There are a lot of people today who want to rush to say, yes, it is. Well, talk to me in 20 years. Talk to me in 20 years. And it very well could. All I'm saying is that there's no way for us to really know that until 20 years from now. Maybe 30 years from now. Then we can really have an assessment. Right now, it's just way too early to call. It's possible, but we just can't know. The Dawn writes, going to the Shazam world premiere super. That's awesome, man. I love Shazam so much, dudes. I love this movie. It's so good. You all got to see Shazam. Just a fun, heartfelt, entertaining movie. You're just grinning from ear to ear the whole time, man. Check it out. I think you're going to all have a good time with it. All right. Patrizia Starnella writes, ciao, Giovanni. Ciao, Patrizia. In the Thor/Captain Marvel scene in the last Endgame trailer, you can see a figure on the side, a bald person looks like Nebula. Have you caught that? And do you think that this throws your misdirect theory out the window? I do know what you're talking about, but look again, Patrizia. It's not Nebula. It's Rhodey. It's Don Cheadle, who is in Avengers headquarters and base, and he's the caretaker there. But when you look closer, you'll see that it is him. Now, even if it was Nebula, and it's not, but even if it was Nebula, that doesn't throw the misdirect theory out the window, because Nebula's physical presence itself could have been a misdirect. Like, if they're going to go through the hassle of putting Nebula, a fake Nebula, in that scene where they're all walking with the suits on and she's not really there in the movie, but they're just making it look like she's there in the trailer, then it would be super easy just to plop her in that shot as well. So, first off, it's not Nebula, it's Rhodey, it's War Machine, it's Don Cheadle. But even if it was Nebula, that doesn't throw the misdirect thing out the window, because that in and of itself could have been a misdirect, right? See, this is why the Russos are so brilliant. Even by suggesting there's misdirects, they're throwing us off the scent, because now we're questioning everything we're seeing, right? It's a little bit of brilliance there. It's a little bit of brilliance. Thanks for that, Patrizia. All right. King T'Challa writes, comedy movie quote, baby, you can't taste, oh, I love this line. Baby, you can't taste racism. One of my favorite comedies ever. Clerks 2. Yes, I know a lot of people prefer the first Clerks. I wholeheartedly prefer the second one. To me, it's a deep movie too. It's an emotion. It's a great movie. I love Clerks 2, but man, I don't want to eat something prepared by this racist. Baby, I will. Baby, you can't taste racism. Such a funny line. So well done. Good quote, King T'Challa. I like that one a lot. Apex writes, could Infinity War re-release before Endgame? Would it beat Titanic? I don't think so, because number one, you'd have to do a re-release, but then the re-release would have to do over 100 and something million Just the re-release would have to do over 100-something million at the box office. That ain't going to happen. So hold on a second. Let me go to Box Office Mojo for a second. Just check the actual distance between Infinity War and Titanic. Titanic is ahead by $120 million. That's a lot of cheddar. That's a lot of money. And could it make up some of that ground? Yes. Would it make $120 million? I don't think so. That seems like a real stretch, especially... sorry. It's actually $140 million behind. Star Wars The Force Awakens is $120 million behind Titanic. Avengers Infinity War is $140 million. So it's basically got to make $150 million. That's a lot. That's a lot. And most people who love Infinity War already own it. Like I own it. I know Rob owns it. You probably own it. So they could re-release it. I think you release it as a double feature with Endgame. But could it get 150 million? I'm not so sure about that. That seems a little unrealistic. But hey, man, anything's possible, right? Ty Tattoo writes, "You good, bro? I am good, bro. Thank you very much. I'm having a great day. Thank you for asking." Storm Chaser 78 writes, "I just saw the Avenge the Fallen posters. Love those for Endgame. Perfectly done. And them putting the Fallen in black and white was a great choice. Thoughts?" No, I loved it. Loved it. Because the ones with the heroes who are still around, their posters are in color. The ones like Scarlet Witch, who are dusted characters, they're in black and white. Avenge the Fallen. It is a great tagline. It's a great post. And I just love that they put in Valkyrie. I love that they put in Valkyrie. That was our first visual confirmation that Valkyrie is in the film. We've heard she's in the film, but this is our first visual confirmation of it. Loved it. I think this is a stroke of genius because now we're just going to be talking about Endgame even more because these posters are probably going to be a topic on the John Campea Show tomorrow. So there you go. They've accomplished their mission, man. I love them. All right. Blue Rock writes, "John, you may have saved my marriage." Really? Therapist Campea here to help. "I have been wanting to talk to my wife about her bad habit of talking during movies. You stopped me. Great advice during a recent super chat. Thank you for all you do, Dr. John." Well, you are welcome. So what Blue is referring to is somebody, I can't remember who it was, but somebody wrote and say, "Hey, John, I hate it when people talk in the movies. And I had to turn to my lady the other day and tell her to stop talking. We'll talk after the movie. And she got mad at me." And I said, look, I completely agree. I don't like talking during movies. I don't mind just a few little things 2 or 3 times a movie, like a little lean over and whisper something to somebody. 2 or 3 times a movie, that's fine. But it's the talking during a movie. And I've got a friend that I've had to stop going to movies with them because they talk so much during the movie. I just can't handle that. But what I suggested was, I said, my friend, my brother, may I suggest to you that there are more important things than being distracted in a movie. Because you may have just gotten your lady to stop talking to you during the movie, and that's going to save you 7-8 minutes of headache. But now you got to live in that relationship with your lady. And may I suggest that cultivating good, healthy relationships is more important than sitting down and watching that movie. You may want to think twice about having that conversation with her again. And so apparently, Blue, the good advice is spread through. I have saved your marriage. You're welcome, brother. You're welcome. Us film fans got to stick together, man. So I'm glad I was able to help. All right, let's see. And our final question of the day, and then we're all caught up, comes to us from Samuel Varg, who writes, "There are movies, and then there is Star Wars. There are series, and then there is Twin Peaks." You know, I got to admit, I've never seen Twin Peaks. Never seen it. I know Rob loves Twin Peaks, and I never saw any of the new ones. I never saw a single one of the new ones, but I know Rob's a big Twin Peaks fan. I know there are rabid fan base for Twin Peaks. One of these days, I got to get around and hop on that because a lot of people speak just like you are, Samuel, like speak very glowingly of it, really love it, and it became a pop culture phenomenon. The Twin Peaks stuff became a pop culture phenomenon. I really should check it out at some point. Anyway, that will do it for me, guys. We are now all cut up. Thanks for being here. Don't forget, guys, the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow with me and Ashley Whalen and Robert Meyer Burnett will be joining us as well. Don't forget, guys, a little bit later tonight, subscribe to Best Movie, Worst Movie Podcast because a new episode is going up tonight. Keep your eyes open for that as well. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for me for now. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.